Oh, now the kettle's really noisy.
It's all right. Don't worry about the kettle. Hi, Patrick. How are you?
Hi, Howard. Hi, everybody.
Hi. So, I
I'm
hope
going to have to
everybody's.
turn this kettle off, Howard. It's too noisy.
Go for it. Go for it.
Right.
I was going to say I hope everybody's had a chance to grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine. Patrick hasn't had a chance to grab a cup of tea, but we'll deal with that in due course.
Now you've got a cup of tea and I haven't got one.
Well, look,
It seems...
I'll pass it through the screen, and you
Right,
can
thanks
have a
very
sip of mine.
much.
There you
Oh,
go.
that way.
However that works.
Okay.
Listen, welcome everyone to the Singer Sewing Machines YouTube channel. We're going to have a chat post Sewing Bee final with Patrick here. How was that for you? Watching that?
Are you asking me, Howard?
Yeah.
Well, like you, I have just watched it. I mean, not for the first time because I was there.
Yeah.
But I've never seen it. You know, it looks different when you put it all together and when the music goes and everything. I mean, I welled up again just now watching it. It has been quite a. I was doing a radio interview. I've done a couple of things today. I did Radio Wales this afternoon. I was on the one show a little bit ago. It has been an unusually emotional series. I mean, we were all in floods of tears when Jill went, and when she spoke so beautifully about how life-changing an experience being on Sewing Bee has been for her. That was an amazing moment. Obviously I was there when we announced that she was going, and I heard her say it, but I went and watched her exit interview on the monitor in the gallery, and it was one of the most heartfelt things I've ever heard. So that was incredible. And of course, you know, you could tell from watching that we were all in bits, and all the other sewers were in bits. I mean, poor old Sarah could barely get her lines out. I was in floods. Everyone was in floods. It was amazing. But I mean, we were all in tears again last week. I mean, and we didn't announce something happy.
Yes,
exactly. I think it was. I think there was a lot of. I saw a lot of conversation on Twitter about our decision to allow all four of them to go into the final, and that was an emotional thing too. I mean, it's such a big deal to get to the semi-final and not to make it that one last step. Must feel terribly hard to bear, and I think you have to ready yourself for hearing your name and being told that you're not going to go through. And then when Sarah said nobody, it took a few seconds before they sort of computed. It's like, what? So we all get to go? And then there was a moment of shocked relief, and then there were tears, and there were tears from me and Esme and Sarah,
and
it was super emotional. And then again today, we had four phenomenal finalists. I mean, such gifted, wonderful people. I mean, all very, very skilled. I mean, it goes without saying that they're all very, very skilled. I mean, some of them started off incredibly skilled, and some of them have got better, but all with very unique tastes, aesthetics, all very different, all just lovely, lovely people. I mean, the most wonderful people. And yeah, I mean, I think we had a very worthy winner. I mean, it's interesting to watch the edit, because obviously, the process of judging is quite a long one. I mean, you watch it on telly and you are getting quite an edited highlight. And sometimes they might leave out some of the comments. So it sometimes might feel a little closer than it is. I think that one, I mean, I think they included Esme saying, she knew who she wanted to win. I mean, I think we both knew it was the winner today was pretty cut and dry.
That's interesting, because I went into watching this evening's really not being able to call it, and when I did kind of call it to myself, I got it wrong.
Yeah, we went into the final not having a clue.
Yeah,
absolutely not. I think any one of the four of them could easily have won it. We've never had a year where we have had 4 people who were as good. And actually, we had people who went out in earlier rounds who I think could easily have won this year or in previous years. I mean, there were 1 or 2 people who went out surprisingly early. You know, this was the thing this year. The standard was so high. You had 1 muck up, and it's over. I mean, it happened last year with funny enough, I was on the One Show with Serena just now, and she was saying how surprised she was when Adam went out last year. And I think a lot of people were incredibly surprised when Marnie went out this year, and we were too. Oh. But, you know, and this is the thing, sometimes people look at the kind of body of their work over a number of weeks, but the way sewing bee judging works is very straightforward. We judge the 3 garments of that week. We never take into consideration what has gone before, because that's not how the format of the sewing bee works. So, you know, I think there was some shock and a little bit of sort of disgruntlement, perhaps, that Marnie had gone. We thought she was a phenomenal talent. She could easily have got to the final, but she didn't. And there are others, you know, who went out earlier who could easily have done it on a different day. But the 4 of them were so good. They were so good.
Let me throw a couple of questions at you.
Yes, please.
We've got come in. Betty says, although it was gorgeous and beautifully executed, were you disappointed at all that Deborah's final garment wasn't as red carpet as the others?
I wasn't I mean, I thought, honestly, Deborah was for me throughout the sewing bee. She was the person who threw up the consistently most brilliant ideas. I mean, I didn't know that she had been a fashion student 20 odd years ago, but she has an amazing gift with clothes. They're original, they're thought-provoking, they're clever, they're incredibly original. She's brilliant, and she doesn't know how brilliant she is. And it was interesting hearing her husband. You know, again, we watched the final. This is the first time we've seen these clips or seen their homes. So actually, I find it really interesting to watch. But Deborah was brilliant. And sorry, I've forgotten the question. Remind me, Howard. I've just gone off.
Were you disappointed that Deborah's final garment wasn't quite as?
You know what? I think the comment I made that wasn't included in the edit was that Deborah chose the fact that Deborah's garment was really, really clever. And I think the features that she had were lost because of the print on the fabric. So when you looked at that jumpsuit, you couldn't see that beautiful fan pleat detail, and you couldn't see the drape. If she'd done it in a plain fabric, you would have seen all of that detail. Or if she'd done it in a contrast, you would have seen it as well. But even if she'd done it in a plain fabric with a sheen on it, you would have seen all that detail much more because of the print she chose. And I love the print, but because of the print, you couldn't see all the amazing detail. So it would have been more red carpet if she'd chosen a plainer fabric. Also, the net detail, I think, needed to be more pronounced. It was such a beautiful garment, but it could have been just a smidge better. And I think, yeah, I mean, Deborah to me was absolutely brilliant throughout, and she made some of the best things we've ever seen on Sewing Bee. Brilliant, stunning. I mean, I know it's fancy dress, but her Miss Havisham with those delicate, bony fingers and the cobwebs. And that, you know, the fact that she hand painted the nails, that headdress was, that was incredible. I said at the time, it could have, you know, you could see it on the West End stage easily. But also it was beautiful and distressed. I mean, it just showed an incredible understanding of how fabric works, how clothes work, how structure works around the body. It was amazing. So she was brilliant. And yeah, I mean, going into it, if I had to have picked a winner, if you'd held a gun to my head and said, who do I think is going to win next week, I might have said Deborah.
Interesting. I was going with Man U, but there you go. where was it going? Tracy wanted to know. Now, I'm not quite sure the tone of the question, but Tracy says, "What was Patrick's best outfit for the season?" Now, I don't know if she's talking about what you were wearing or what one were your favourite creation moment.
Well, we can answer both,
Let's
can't
answer
we?
both.
Let's answer both. My favourite. Well, I wear the same clothes every year. It's the same old stuff, round and round again. I like it when people comment on me tucking my tie in. By the way, it just encourages me to do it more. I think it looks good. That's why I do it. Because I like my trousers high, and I don't like to tie a short tie. It looks a bit schoolboy, so I just tie the tie normal and tuck it in. So I did have a couple of new things made at Norton's this year. So there's a brown suit and a kind of denim-y blue suit, both double-breasted, that I wore, and a pale denim jacket. Not denim, pale denim color wool jacket. So I did have some nice new clothes this year, actually. I'm sure everybody noticed, and that's what Tracy's question was about. But if it was about other things, I mean, Mish Havisham was amazing. I think Annie's origami in Japan Week was amazing. Actually, Deborah's origami in Japan Week was almost as great. What else did I really like? There were some fun things. I mean, I think actually I love Jill's Dalek. Jill's Dalek really made me chuckle. I mean, it was so good. I mean, it was. I mean, I know it was not quite clothesy, but it was clothes, and it was a fancy dress outfit. That's what we asked to do. But it just made me laugh a lot, and actually, it was so well done. Annie's dragon head was amazing too. There were loads of things. Yeah, you're testing my memory. Of course, it was I mean, state secret. It was nearly 8 months ago.
Well, this is true. This is true.
So, and I have actually watched probably half the season, but I'm yeah.
Am I right in thinking that not only from a technical point of view, it seemed to me that from I don't know what the word is, from a flamboyance or an elegance or a design point of view, that this was a ratchet up on previous seasons?
I think we had a fantastic winner last year, and I think Serena was amazing. Raf was brilliant. Raf had I mean, it was very, very close between those two. But I think overall we had. Funny enough, I was on the one show. I don't know if anybody is in touch with Marty, but Helen Glover was on one show, and she said she was watching the show and she was texting Heather Stanek, who was the inspiration for Marnie's Sports Week Sporting Heroes jacket. And they were texting each other. They were talking, "Oh my God, you're on Soapy." I think we had so many people, Marnie, Angela, Christian, plus the 4 that were in the final. We're all brilliant. I mean, I hate saying these things, but the others were very, very good. But those, there were so many really, really good contestants. Whereas in previous years we've maybe had 2, sometimes 3. This year I think we had maybe 6 people that could have won it in another year. So yeah, I think the standard is up. I think. People are getting savvy as well. I mean, people, you know what standard you've got to be at to win it, and also I think people are feel as you go through the process. Some people start to just feel more free, and I mean, Annie was an interesting case in point. I think she got better. Her sewing skills got better. Her vision was always there. Her creativity and her sense of color and her sense of drama and her sense of shape and scale and everything else was always there, but her sewing got better. I think it was almost the opposite of last year, where Serena was technically brilliant from the start. Everything she made was perfection, but her sense of adventure grew and grew and grew throughout the 10 weeks of the show. And in the final, she just nailed it. She really, that big sort of lemon yellow organza tiered kind of Molly Goddard style dress was phenomenal.
take yourself back to the first season of Sewing Bee, and now we've just finished. This is what, season 9?
Season 8.
Season 8.
Yeah.
How
Now
do
you're
the
testing the
how do
memory.
the two compare in terms of quality and standard? You know, if you look at the two of them, it's the Sewing Bee as it
You mean
first
the quality
started
of the
now.
program or the quality
No,
of
I think the standard of the sewing.
Well, I mean, it's on average, it's definitely higher. But Anne, who won series 1, might well be the best sewer we've ever had out of everyone. I mean, she could do everything, and she did everything brilliantly. You know, she could dressmake, she could tailor, she could hand embroider, she could do absolutely everything, and she was amazing. And then what I loved about Anne was, you know, when the producers were around kind of getting in her ear, she'd turn her hearing aid down so she didn't get disturbed. But Lauren was great too. We had some great, we had some good people. Tilly was great, series 1. The challenges were really simple. I mean, I remember in series 1, one of the transformations was, embellish an A-line skirt. And I think Stuart Hilliard sewed a tulip on one, and we went, "Whoa, that's amazing!" And now, look at what they're doing in the transformations. I mean, it's absolutely spellbinding. But that's not to say that those guys couldn't have done what the guys today are doing. It's just that we set very simple challenges to begin with, and as we realized that people could do them, and as we had to start distinguishing between more and more people, we had to set higher and higher bars and more different challenges. Also, very hard to be the first person in any show in any format. You really don't know what's coming. Now, of course, they know that they're going to have to be able to work with wovens, they're going to have to be able to work with jersey, they're going to have to be able to work with stretch, they're really going to have to be able to work with lace and organza, and use an overlocker and use a flat lock and use a cover stitch, and and do everything and know everything. So it's the same. When I over the years I've watched Bake Off, and the basic skill set that you have in your locker just gets better and better and better and better. And so yeah, I think it's always I think it's an unfair comparison because we set simple challenges.
Sure. I mean, this time I thought the trainer challenge, the shoe challenge, was a particular curveball.
Yeah, well, we did a hat. I can't remember. We did an 8-piece Baker Boy hat a couple of seasons ago, and that felt a bit of a departure. But the shoe was tricky.
Yeah,
I mean, it really did throw them. And it was difficult. It was difficult. I mean, there were some things that we didn't expect to be difficult that people found difficult. But it was a difficult challenge. But it was fun. I mean, also it's great to show that shoes are sewn together like clothes are. And we're actually working. We're almost finished with the challenges for next year's Sewing Bee. We're at the stage where we're testing all the patterns, and we've got all the we'll be looking at all the toiles of all the challenges next Thursday. So they're nearly ready to go, and then they'll go into time testing. So we do time test them, and we check that they can be done. But it is always a bit difficult. It's a bit of a dark art, because how much time is somebody going to spend chatting to Esme and I and Sarah and the other producers that are asking them questions and all of that stuff while they should be sewing?
So let me take you back to the questions. There's a movement building in the questions here.
Let's deal with the movement.
There's an appetite for a kind of a spin-off program where almost like a take 2, where you can explain the skills that are needed and the techniques that are needed to complete some of the tasks. So the idea is that you watch the program and then you go to the take 2 program, and you can learn the techniques in detail on how to do it. And there's 4 or 5 people here who are saying this is a good idea. So you can take that back to to love
I'll take
production
it
as
back.
an idea.
I mean, the thing is, I think there is opportunity for digital spin-offs. I mean, actually, the production team, they could just film the production team time testing the challenges, and they could talk about what they're doing, and then that could go out in a little digital clip somewhere. I mean, it is always best to do this thing with somebody in a room. So it's quite. I mean, you've got to be quite good to teach things on YouTube, and it is better to learn it from somebody. So, there's loads and loads of great sewing classes around the country. And I think that's your best way to learn stuff. I mean, any fabric shop, any haberdashery, I'm sure Singer has connections with all sorts of fantastic haberdasheries who will know where locally to go and do it. The problem is it's quite expensive making, big shows like Sewing Bee and the little spin-off things. I don't know. I mean, Angela Scanlon, who's a friend of mine, said, I think we should do like an after show called Behind the Scenes, and kind of go into some of this stuff and talk about the challenges, and a bit like Joe Brand's Bake Off Extra Slice.
Yes.
But for whatever reason, the Beeb or Love have never gone for the idea. But then Esme pinched it as the title for her book, which is very good, by the way. If you haven't read it, if you watch the show and you go, oh my God, Esme's hung out with so and so, it's all in the book. Go and buy the book. It's very entertaining. I read it over a weekend about a month or so ago, just after it was out. It's actually very, very interesting. I mean, I've heard a lot of stories. Some of them
did it surprise you or shock you?
No, I mean, I've heard it all. I mean, there's worse stuff that wasn't allowed in the book. I mean, like many of us, Esme has, the fashion world is an interesting world. It's, and we do get to meet and hang out with amazing people all the time. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, through work we get to just like Esme sitting on the window ledge with Bowie, like that's kind of normal. And friends of mine are like, oh my God, I can't believe you. It's like, well, yeah, Kanye came to the shop and was hanging around for a couple of hours and vibing about the Bedford chord in the bunches and trying on the archive. Like that's kind of the world we live in. It just feels normal to us. So but yeah, her book is full of fun stuff, and she has had. I mean, it is actually a genuinely interesting read. There were plenty of bits in it that I haven't heard, and I've heard quite a lot of it.
I'll get myself a copy.
Please do.
I will do.
I'll get Esme to sign it for you.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Picking up on one of the challenges in the final, which was the make something out of all of the scrap fabric.
Yeah.
So Claire's mentioned she wants to know what happens to all the waste fabric, and are you going to be using even more sustainable fabrics in the future with a real focus on upcycling?
All the fabric scraps go to, actually last year, I don't know where they're going this year, but I don't know where they went last year, but the year before, they all get collected and they all get given to, well, the year before last, they all went to Dumfries House, to the sewing school there. So they all get collected and reused. In terms of using sustainable fabrics, I mean, it's a tricky one because, I mean, it would be nice to only use organic, locally reared. I mean, I'm doing a project at the moment where we're growing flax in Lancashire. And last year we did it. We started it last year. We grew some flax. We extracted it. We hand spun it. We plant dyed it with some woad that we also grew in and around Blackburn, and then we wove it by hand. We made this piece of fabric that was completely carbon free, and in fact carbon negative, because the flax will have sequestered carbon during its growing cycle, and then we used no energy in the production of the process. And it would be lovely, but that stuff is expensive and there's a limited choice, and you know, not everybody has the money to buy those expensive sustainable fabrics. And so I think what we do in the show is try and use them where we can, but also we have to, we have to use a broad variety, and the sewers need a choice. And sometimes they, also it's the BBC and they don't have big budgets. If we were on ITV, I'm sure we could be using, single farm sourced organic cotton and beautiful local, Northern European linen.
Yeah.
But it's the BBC, and the budgets are quite small, even on BBC One.
When it comes to judging, how do you and Esme differ in what you're looking for, in how you approach the judging?
Well, I mean, we're different people. We've got different tastes. I think in terms of the technical skill, I think we're pretty on a level. I think we both have a similar standard. I mean, I obviously my background is Savile Row. We sew things to a very particular standard, and that's the standard. That is the gold standard for me. And I judge all of the sewers against that standard. That's not to say I'm expecting them to reach that standard, because of course they won't. Because my tailors at work sew for 40 hours every day. 40 hours every week, and have done some of them for 30 years. And you get to a standard that's unbeatable. And I think technically we know, we're sort of at a level. But then we've got different tastes in things. Esme doesn't like frills. She doesn't like puff sleeves. She doesn't, and I do. I like this stuff. We have different designers. She doesn't. There's a lot that's going on in the world of fashion right now that's just not her cup of tea. And I quite like it. I look at designers like Simone Rocha, Molly Goddard, Erdem, and I like their stuff, but it's not her cup of tea. So, sometimes, that's where we will differ. That's where we will differ.
So
but I think we've also got quite similar tastes. We've both grown up through, I didn't go to fashion school, but, then I when I moved into this industry, I became part of the British Fashion Council's kind of talent pipeline. And so I went through, the various programs. I mean, actually, I was a judge for New Gen, so I didn't go through the New Gen program. But then we did what was called Fashion Forward. And then I moved into the BFC Vogue Fund program, and then the BFC GQ Fund program. And that's, and so I was contemporary with people like, Christopher Kane and Erdem and Jonathan Saunders and Louise Gray and loads and loads of those young designers. So I've kind of lived in that world, Craig Green, Jonathan Anderson, all those guys. So, even though I wasn't at fashion college, I spent a lot of time in showrooms in Paris and New York and Hong Kong and whatever with those guys. I've spent a lot of time, we worked for McQueen, we worked for Erdem, we've worked for Christopher Kane for years and years and years, worked for Louise Gray. We've made clothes for amazing people behind the scenes at Norton's. We still make Christopher Kane's catwalk pieces for his collection. I was just looking at a picture of Dua Lipa in a Christopher Kane beaded sparkling jacket that we made a couple of years ago.
Wow.
Amazing. So that's that world. We're both the same. I mean, May and I were quite different in that respect, but Esme and I are much more. I think avant-garde is probably a bit of an old-fashioned word, but that's kind of the world. Even though I dress like a geography teacher, that's the world of clothes that I love. The creativity of that world is absolutely what I love about it. I mean, in fact, the fashion industry is a funny old place, because it used to be, when you talked about fashion just used to be this little tiny world inhabited by people like Hubert Givenchy and Coco Chanel and Yves Saint Laurent and Christian Dior, and this little tiny world where everything was beautifully made and it was amazing fabrics, and it was tiny, bloody expensive. Normal people couldn't afford it, but it was little, and it was all driven by creativity and craftsmanship. And now what we call fashion is this huge thing that's just everything from all of that beautiful stuff which still goes on, but all the way down to the depressing stuff at the bottom, like, you know, H&M and Zara and Primark and all these things, where it's just cheap stuff, tons of it, that doesn't have any creativity in it. It's just copies of things that they've seen before, no craftsmanship, no care about the materials, whatever is cheapest, whatever is easiest. And that's miserable and depressing. And I don't like that. You know, I find that deeply depressing, but I still love the world that, you know, people like Christopher Kane and Alexander McQueen, who was a, you know, good customer of ours for years and years. That world I love. I love that world because it's close to art. You know, it's an applied art.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, it's beauty, it's craftsmanship, it's wonderful. It's making something wonderful that people will cherish and love and want to keep and wear over and over again for a really long time. And that's what's missing in most of that kind of fashion industry.
Coming back to the program, how's it been with the new host? How's it been with Sarah instead of Joe?
Awesome. I mean, we're so lucky. We're so lucky. I mean, 4 years with Claudia Winkleman, brilliant, ridiculous Claudia Winkleman. Joe, who breathed an amazing new life into the show and is a dear and wonderful person and has an amazing brain and is just, you know, a bundle of kind of madcap nonsense. And it was, you know, again, an absolute joy to spend 14 hours a day for dozens and dozens of days. How many days did we spend together? I mean, gosh, well, I mean, it was 24 times, like 70 odd days together. I mean, amazing number of days that we spent in each other's company. And then Sarah just slipped straight on in. I mean, I love Sarah. She is hilarious, naturally hilarious. She's incredibly warm and generous with all of the contestants. And woe betide anybody who tells Sarah Pascoe anything, because she never forgets anything. She has got stories on everyone. You know, she's been on so many of these panel shows, these comedy panel shows over the years. People tell her things. She remembers everything.
That's good to know.
But also, I think what was really interesting about choosing Sarah as the host was that she'd obviously been there and done it.
Mm-hmm.
She was a contestant on the Christmas Celebrity Sewing Bee, Christmas Before Last. So she's been on the receiving end of all of this stuff. So she has a completely unique empathy for the contestants and what they're going through. Also, she's really involved in the challenges. I mean, I don't think it's any secret to say that Claudia, you know, wasn't that engaged in the sewing. I mean, nor really was Joe. He had a lovely time with the contestants, but, you know, Sarah cares about everything they're making and is genuinely out there trying to help them do it better.
What happens to the completed garments made during the series?
I believe they stay with us in case things need, you know, pickups and what have you. I think often if there are books being done tied in with the series, then they will choose garments from the series to photograph as examples for the books. If they're doing, you know, pattern challenges from the series in the book, they will take and photograph some of the pieces that the contestants have made. But I think they get them back.
Oh, do they? I was going to say, otherwise you could do a really nice exhibition.
Well, they would, wouldn't they? But I mean, I'm sure none of them would have thrown them out. But I think they get them back because I'm pretty sure somebody told me that once. You know, this is a question for somebody with a bit more of a handle on the admin.
Sean wants to know who comes up with the different themes, and do you plan to reuse themes or challenges from previous seasons in the next season?
I mean, without blowing my own trumpet, I've come up with quite a lot of them. Reduce, reuse, recycle was me. The geographic, like going to different parts of the world, was me. Sports was me. We do it. We come up with them together. I mean, we have already been working on the challenges and the weeks the producers obviously have a big part in this, if any of them are watching. Catherine and Suzanne, I'm sure you were equally involved. Yeah, we started. I remember doing the first call. I did about 3. I was doing an event. I was doing a talk actually at Macallan Whiskey on Speyside, right up near Inverness, and they were driving me back in a very nice Tesla from Speyside back to Edinburgh, and I spent almost all of that journey on the phone to Catherine, talking through ideas, and that was about 4 months ago. Yeah. So we've been working on it since then. You know, we've had a couple of meetings where we've sat down and done it, and we've looked at we've gridded them all of the weeks. All the weeks are now done. I would say 80% of the challenges are now completely signed off. And then next week, all of the pattern challenges are signed off, because those obviously we have to go and cut patterns and develop the instructions and time test them and all the rest of them. So those have to get signed off early. And then transformations are a little easier, although we do have to find the material for the transformation. The made to measure, we've got a bit more time, because we only need to tell the contestants. We typically tell them about 6 weeks before the episode is filmed what those made to measure challenges are going to be, and then it's up to them if they do any preparation. But they do have enough time. Typically they have enough time. If they don't prepare before we start filming, they might find they have less time than they think. But yeah, so no, we all come up with them. I think we've got a couple of new ones for next year, assuming they all remain the same. I mean, they will sometimes morph a little bit as challenge. You know, we'll have some really good challenges that we like, and we maybe the week doesn't quite work, so we'll kind of tweak them and pop them into another week and nudge some things out. But I think we've got almost 30 great challenges for next series. You're pleased to know there is a next series.
Yeah, also, no, absolutely.
Everybody, you know, the call for contestants obviously is now over. The word is I don't get involved in casting the sewers anymore. First couple of series I was involved, but now we've got a crack team who are very good at doing it. And
so it's the first time you meet them, the first day of filming.
Yeah.
And do they come in looking like rabbits caught in the headlights of an oncoming car?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Some of them are full of energy and confidence. But we soon knock that out of them.
Mary wants
but
to
no, I mean, we do. I mean, we actually go in and say hi.
Yeah.
Very quickly before the cameras roll. But that's probably 10 minutes before we start. We just go in and say hello. Yeah. And then walk out again. And then we film us coming in and saying hello.
Mary wants to know, is it possible to actually buy the actual patterns from the pattern challenges?
Only if they make it into the book.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the thing about those patterns, I think they are very simple, because we have to take time out. So many of the things that we do, if you were going to do it yourself and you had plenty of time, you wouldn't do it exactly the way we do it on the show. You would add in all of the bits that we take out, because we know we just can't have a 10-hour challenge. I mean, people often ask us why there isn't more menswear, and it's like, well, a lot of menswear is tailored and takes a long time. But I mean, even the Parker was a very simplified version of the community clothing Parker that we sell, but it had bits taken off, and it was, it was simplified, because even our professional sewers, when they're doing it in our factory, I think it's probably like a 120-minute sewing garment, and that's if you break the garments down and everyone's doing a single operation, and that's without cutting it out, finding the fabric, and talking to everybody else. So we have to simplify these things for the challenges, because otherwise they'd go on for days, and that's not fair on anyone. Okay, very occasionally towards the end of the series, we will allow them a couple of hours of cutting out time. Sometimes before a final, they'll get a bit of cutting out time. So they'll come in the day before, and under controlled conditions, they will cut out their fabric, just so that they're not on camera, on their feet for too long on the day. Because we don't, we're not trying to break people. We're trying to give them the chance to make amazing stuff if we can. I mean, that our show is a show about positivity. We don't want people.
I think that's one of the reasons it's so popular, because it's so positive, warm, collaborative, friendly.
I mean, what can I say, Howard? We are positive, warm people.
What can I tell you? I'm conscious we're getting to, it's 11:15. I don't want to keep
right. So, have we got any more questions?
Well, we've got a couple. So we've got just Kay wants to know: are you in touch with past contestants and winners?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, as I said earlier, I went on the One show this evening with Serena, and Serena came to BAFTA with us. Did you know we were nominated for BAFTA, Howard?
I did, actually. I did, Patrick. I did.
We were very, very proud to be nominated for a BAFTA. We all went to BAFTA. All the production team, not all of the production team, but quite a lot of the production team. We had 3 tables of productions, very generously took loads of us down there, and they took. Serena came along too. I have seen various of them. Deborah from series 2 or 3 obviously was living in Blackburn, and I used to see her occasionally. We worked on a couple of things together. I mean, we chat over Instagram, a few of us. Oh, yeah. I've seen Damien from last year. Kate was true to his word and brought me pies at the factory. He's in Bolton. I was in the factory in Blackburn, and he came up and brought me pies. But I've also seen him a couple of times. He's come down and helped out on planting day for Homegrown Homespun, which is our linden growing project in Blackburn. Yeah. A few contestants have been down. I mean, I remember Anne coming to Savile Row way back in the day. I saw Ricardo at the Chelsea Flower Show, which was super nice. Yeah, I mean, those guys have a little WhatsApp group.
Cool.
For each year, which so they stay absolutely tight, and occasionally I'm always delighted to see them. But we don't formally keep in touch. But there's quite a few of them that I bumped into, or that they'll make a little comment on something on my Instagram. I'll be like, oh, hello.
I've got one more question before we wrap up. Before I do, I should just say, I'd be remiss of me to say that, of course, if people are watching, they still have a chance to win a place on one of our singer sewing sessions with your good self.
That's the prize that
later in the year
to be sniffed at.
Yeah, I know. So all you need to do to find out what you need to do is go to singerco.co.uk/Patrick, and you've got until the end of July to get yourself in there. And, well, what can I tell you? And then you could be in the room with Mr. Grant later in the year doing an upcycling challenge.
Yeah.
The question I was going to finish with is, looking back over this whole series, what's your one highlight?
I think it has to be Jill telling us about how being on Sewing Bee has changed her life. I mean, there have been brilliant sews, there have been brilliant moments, but to have been part of something that was so life-changing in such a positive way for somebody, you can't beat that.
No, that's brilliant. Patrick, thank you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Likewise, Howard.
I will see you again soon.
Seeing you at that Sewing Day, and anybody who's on here who hasn't applied,
do come, and we'll see you soon.
We have a fun day, don't we?
We do. It's a good laugh. It's a good laugh, and we get some nice stuff done.
We do. Very nice.
We do. All right. Thanks everybody for joining, and the recording will stay up if you want to watch it again. Patrick, I will see you very soon.
Cheerio. Bye, everyone.